This is now the part 3 of the LEED V4 Reference Guide for Homes Design and Construction online review. Again, all the pictures or images in this video are from Google and USGBC website. If you have comments, suggestions, or complaints regarding the images, pictures, or in this video itself, please email me at nelca_roco@yahoo.com and I will immediately reply to you and take action on whatever the reason of your email. Thank you. Why I created this online reviewer? To help myself and others to pass the LEED AB exam one shot. These are the LEED credit categories. On my second video, I discussed to you the integrative process. Now we will proceed to Location and Transportation or LT. Location and Transportation or LT overview. This credit category is possible for 15 points. Building projects have substantial site-related environmental effects. Location and transportation credits reward the choice of site locations that promote environmentally responsible land use patterns and neighborhoods and offer environmental advantages over conventional developments. Project teams can reduce fragmentation of farmland and forests and other natural areas by building within and near already developed areas. Well-sited developments need less infrastructure, especially roads and water and sewer lines, and such developments allow residents to use a range of sustainable transportation options, including walking, bicycling, and mass transit, thereby reducing dependence on personal automobiles. LT points can be earned in either two ways, summarized in Figure 1. One is LEED for neighborhood development with a maximum of 15 points, and the site selection, compact development, community resources, and access to transits, which has different credit points. Important note, a minimum of 8 points must be achieved in the combined LT and EA sections. This is the Homes project checklist for location and transportation. It has 1 prerequisite and 5 credits. Now we will start with prerequisite 1, the floodplain avoidance. Floodplain avoidance. Intent: to reduce the environmental impact of the development footprint. It is prerequisite or required. Requirements: do not develop buildings on land that lies within a flood hazard area shown on a legally adopted flood hazard map, such as the Federal Emergency Management Agency or FEMA, 100-year floodplain, or otherwise legally designated by the local jurisdiction or the state, unless the building is designed and built in accordance with the flood provisions of applicable building code, the local floodplain management regulations, or at a minimum, the National Flood Insurance Program requirements. Projects outside of the United States may be used a local equivalent program to NFIP if the program is equal to or more stringent. Previously developed buildings and hardscapes are exempt from the above requirements. This is the example of Presidential Disaster Declarations from FEMA. Behind the intent, flood damage causes long-term durability issues and diminishes indoor environmental quality. The restoration and reconstruction of damaged buildings generate large amounts of waste, and demolished buildings squander resources while adding to landfills. Floodplains also provide important ecosystem services and habitat. The prerequisite encourages the complete avoidance of floodplains due to these important ecosystem benefits, but acknowledges the need for a solution while avoidance is infeasible. In this case, properly designing homes to resist flooding is required. Step-by-step guidance. Step 1. Map floodplain. Determine whether the site is in a 100-year floodplain, also known as a 1% flood, or in another legally adopted flood hazard area, such as an area of special concern designated by the municipality or state. In the U.S., the Federal Emergency Management Agency or FEMA maps most areas subject to a 1% annual chance of flooding. Inspect the site survey for a note stating this property does not lie within a flood hazard area. See Figure 1. Figure 1 is a survey showing property not in a floodplain. Illustration by Terrell Broyles. Step 2. Verify floodplain limitations on site. If the survey states that the property is within a flood hazard area, obtain a flood profile drawing that shows the limits of the floodplain and the topography of the site. See Figure 2. If the survey states that the property is not within the flood hazard area, the prerequisite requirements are achieved. Figure 2 shows a survey showing property within a floodplain. The project is compliant because the building isn't in the floodplain. Illustration by Terrell Broyles. Step 3. Within floodplain. Design for flood resistance. Strategy is to raise all finished floor areas and mechanical and electrical equipment above the floodplain. All spaces at or below the floodplain must be non-habitable areas that can withstand flooding. See further explanation, Existing Buildings Exemption. We will now proceed to further explanation. International tips. FEMA is administered by the U.S. federal government. Projects outside the U.S. can use an equivalent program administered at the national level. Projects are encouraged to use ASCE 24, which is applicable to projects outside the U.S. Project teams may need to retain local civil engineers or hydrologists who are licensed or certified to delineate floodplain boundaries. Most local, regional, or state jurisdictions, both inside and outside the U.S., maintain flood hazard maps. Projects outside the U.S. may refer to existing up-to-date flood maps for their project area or create their own maps based on expert information. Still on further explanation, Existing Buildings Exemption. Existing buildings located in a floodplain are exempt from the prerequisite requirements. USGBZ recommends but does not require that existing buildings in floodplains elevate the finished area above the floodplain through one of the three following actions. 1. Extend the walls of the house upward and raise the lowest floor. 2. Convert the existing lower area of the house to non-habitable space and build a new second story for living space. And 3. Lift the entire house with the floor slab attached and build a new foundation to elevate the house. See the FEMA guide above the flood, elevating your flood-prone house. Still on further explanation, local codes. Local jurisdictions have specific requirements for building in or near floodplains. This may include placing finished floor heights 4 feet or 1.2 meters or more above the base flood elevation and not installing any mechanical or electrical equipment below that elevation. They may also require all construction to be a minimum distance measured horizontally from the flood profile. It is the responsibility of the project team to verify local, regional, or state requirements and restrictions for floodplain development. Last on further explanation, FEMA Map Service Center. FEMA provides flood hazard maps at msc.fema.gov. Search by address, then identify the classification for the project. The zone listings are accurate as of January 1, 2013. If the project zone begins with A or V, example A, AE, AO, A11, V1, it is below the 100-year floodplain. If the project zone begins with B, C, or X, it is above the 100-year floodplain. Zone D identifies areas of undetermined flood risk. The team must find additional information to determine whether additional flood-resistant design will be necessary. Related credit tips. LT credit site selection. This credit contains an option that precludes any development within a flood hazard area, in contrast to the prerequisite, which allows such development if it meets the requirements of the National Flood Insurance program. Changes from LEED for Homes 2008. A portion of the former LL2 site selection was used as a basis for this new prerequisite. Contract language recommendations, none. Technical resources. Above the flood, elevating your flood-prone house, Federal Emergency Management Agency. You can go to fema.gov/library. FEMA Map Service Center with their phone number 877-336-2627, or you may go to msc.fema.gov. Reference Standard, the National Flood Insurance Program. Exemplary performance, not available. Verification and submittals, supporting verification materials made available by the project team. Provide floodplain map that demonstrates project is above floodplain. Provide details on how the National Flood Insurance Program requirements have been met, or provide photo documentation that project is built on foundation of previously developed building. Group project. Each building must meet requirements, but single floodplain map may be used. For verification team, verify that floodplain map is for actual location of building and that building is above floodplain. Or verify that building meets local flood provisions or was previously developed. Glossary or definition of terms. Development footprint. The total land area of a project site covered by buildings, streets, parking areas, and other typically impermeable surfaces constructed as part of the project. Previously developed, altered by paving, construction, and/or land use that would typically have required regulatory permitting to have been initiated. Alterations may exist now or in the past. Land that is not previously developed and landscapes altered by current or historical clearing or filling, agricultural or forestry use, or preserved natural area use are considered undeveloped land. The date of previous development permit issuance constitutes the date of previous development, but permit issuance in itself does not constitute previous development. This is now the end of part 3. Thank you for watching. Watch for the next video. LEED V4 Homes, Location and Transportation Credit 1, LEED for Neighborhood Development. See you next time again.